Hello, my name is Lance Davis Jr. I'm a 25-year-old gay male from Sacramento, California. And I'm here to make a YouTube video. This is my first, and I really wanted to make this about my coming out. So here I am to present to you my coming out story. And my coming out story really began when I was 19 years old. I realized that I was gay, and I came out to my family. My mother handled it all right, my father not so much. And so it was a really hard time in my life, and I wasn't prepared for how harder my life would eventually get about a year later after that. So in 2005, that's when I told my parents, and it was that was probably one of the hardest years for me because they didn't accept it very well. My father practically just about disowned me, and he was so upset because you know how your parents, they want you to have that model family where you get married to a woman, you have a baby, and stuff like that, and that was just not me. You know, I felt attracted to men. I wanted to be in the comfort of a man. So as time went on, I started getting more involved in being gay, and I started coping with my stress with dealing with my family by sleeping around. I don't recommend it for anybody. You know, I use those sites like everybody else has really before, like gay.com, Adam Fratum, and now Grindr. Now, back in that time, in 2005, they didn't really have Grindr, and Adam Fratum, I think, was still fresh. So I used gay.com, and about a year later from that was when I met a guy that ended up turning to be the nightmare in my life. You know, I met this guy on gay.com. He was really nice at first, and we got along great. I felt like I finally found my Prince Charming. Little did I know he wasn't the type of person that I thought he was. And so as time went on in our relationship, we were together for 4 months, off and on, and he came up and visited, and every time he left, I cried, and I made it as executive decision to move down to San Diego because that was where he was residing at the time. And I have to tell you, moving for someone is never a good idea. You don't know somebody in a 4-month period, and I don't recommend it. And ask yourself that question the next time you think about doing that. Is that the smartest move to do? I learned my lesson, no. So I moved down there, and about a month after we were living together, he started becoming physically abusive. It really started when I went to a bar with him. I had just turned 21, and I took his keys because I didn't want him to drink and drive. I don't believe in drinking and driving. I think it's really bad. It's one of our huge things we have in our society that has become an epidemic, and it's something that I'm really against. So I took his keys, and I gave them to his best friend, and he was really mad. And I kept telling him over and over again, I don't have your keys. So what does he do? He smacks me across the face. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I remember crying. And I thought, well, maybe this is just because he's buzzed and drunk. Because you know how drunk people get. They do things when they're drunk that they're stupid and then they don't ever remember. You know, it's really the story of a drunk, right? So as time went on, the abuse got worse. He ended up in about November of 2006, he would whip me with a belt. And I remember him nicking me in the head, and I'm like, wow, this feels weird. And I patted my head, and I felt a wet spot, and I'm going, what is going on? So then when I looked at my hand, I noticed there was blood, and then I looked to my side, to my shoulder, and that's when I noticed there was blood dripping down. So I had to go shower off and do all that, and so a lot of people would ask me, well, why didn't I call the police? Well, I felt like at that time I just was trapped in my relationship and I just couldn't do it. I loved him. I didn't want to see him to get in trouble. That's usually the case on any type of domestic violence relationship. So as we go on into December of 2006, I went to the doctor, got an HIV test, found out that I was HIV positive. And I remember that day. The doctor said, you know what? You have no STDs, but I'm sorry you have HIV. And I remember I cried, and I cried into my ex-partner's arms. And, you know, I just couldn't believe it. It was a shock of my life. It was one of those things where now you have to deal with not only your parents knowing you're gay, but now they have to find out you're HIV positive. For me, I told my parents, some people don't always do that because they're afraid how their parents are going to handle that. So I recommend, if you're going to have a hard time doing that, I would go to your local gay and lesbian center and check out and see if they have any therapy or anything or any type of resource, because that will always help you. That's what I recommend to anybody. So moving on, I found out it was positive, and it was really hard to deal with, and, you know, the initial shock. And the initial shock period lasted me about a couple months. And that was when I had time to think about what I want to do with my life. Do I want to sit here, feel sorry, or do I want to get out there and make something of myself? So as time went on, I stayed with my ex, and we were together till about 2007, about the summer, around July, and we broke up, and that was when he told me he had cancer. And it hit me really hard because when you have someone that you love that you've lost to cancer, it hits you. It brings back those memories. My grandmother passed away when I was in middle school of cancer. It was a really hard thing for me to deal with. And I miss her a lot. I love her. God bless her. And I hope that I'm hoping she's in peace and not hurting anymore. And I'm very grateful for that. But it was a really hard thing. It brought that refreshed memory. It got better over time, and then when I saw him about a couple months later, it was about September or October of 2007, he had lost a lot of weight, and that's when I knew his condition was getting worse. And I basically would watch him be sick and everything, and I was really feel like I was really watching somebody I loved just basically deteriorate in front of me and die. It was very heartbreaking when you love somebody and you see them deteriorating in front of you. And a lot of people would ask me, like, why didn't you leave? I mean, why do that? Well, because I'm not the type of person, I'm just not going to abandon somebody just because they have an illness or because they're sick. You know, I have a good heart, I'm a good person, and I don't believe in that. So as that time went on, as we got into February of 2008, we had one more physical altercation, and that was when I finally said, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to get out of this relationship, so I took my stuff the next day and I left. As that time went on, we, you know, we kind of phased out of contact from each other. And I was sick in February for a little while, and that I ended up finding out was mono, which is called the kissing disease, and that really is just something that is a viral infection that goes away, and once you have it, you don't get it back again. But I remember, and I'm trying to figure out who the hell gave me mono. And that's when I found out, yeah, of course, go figure, it was my ex. He basically had told my mother, and this is what he said to my mother, I think I gave your kid mono because he went and visited my mother for me in Sacramento. He drove up there. He was up there at the time. So, you know, that was really hard to deal with. And then we broke up for good right after that. And I was so glad. It was the best decision I ever made. Don't let anybody ever abuse you. It is not worth it. And what I call it a cycle of abuse. You can only break the cycle when you're ready to. If you don't break the cycle, the abuse will just continue. So as time went on, I went to go visit a person that I met online, doing the same thing, repetitive thing again. And that turned into crash and burn. And I had rented a room in Illinois, and I was trying to get to know this guy, and basically we liked each other, but he just wasn't ready, and he wasn't at that place and time. And the worst part was, at the end of all this, I got evicted for being HIV positive. She found out because I actually did tell her son's girlfriend. I didn't think she was going to evict me, and she gave me 24 hours to leave, and I left. So then from that point on, you know, the next morning, she dropped me off at a Holiday Inn Express and said, I can't take you to the airport because I don't want to be late for work. So that hurt a lot. I remember being very upset, but luckily I had a really good friend at the time, and I still do, and he helped me get to the airport, and I got able to fly back to San Diego. From there, I went home and to visit my family, and I was debating whether or not I want to stay, and when I chose to go back to San Diego, my father ended up saying to me, well, you know what, call me when you're on your deathbed. That was really hard to deal with. Even when I told my mother, we both broke down and cried. It was really hard for him to use my HIV like that to hurt me. So as time went on, when I got back to San Diego, that's when I got an email from my ex-roommate, and he told me, I just want to let you know that your ex-boyfriend passed away. I was really shocked and really upset. I didn't know what to do, and my emotions were all over the place. And that's when I found out that when I talked to his best friend, that he never had cancer. In fact, he had AIDS, and he had it for 15 years. And this is probably the time frame of when it mutated from HIV to AIDS. And you can probably see where I'm going with this, is then I asked him, like, you know, is he the one who infected me? Yes, he is the one who infected me. He did not tell me he had HIV. He intentionally infected me. He told me he was negative. I trusted him, and that's where the repercussion and consequence of that, of somebody you don't know. So I also found out this guy he told me was his cousin, was another boyfriend he had at the same time. So my emotions were very very all over the place. And I started therapy for that in August. It was a very success up to about March 2009 when I really started having a breakthrough. At the same time, I joined a gay men's group called Empower SD, which was to go and empower gay men, bicurious, and bisexual men to become advocates of change in their community. It became such a passion to me because I got to go out there, I got to do the outreach and pass out condom packs and try to educate people on this epidemic that affects the gay society. And I had a lot of fun doing it. It became such a pride thing to me, a joy. It made me so happy, and it made me feel like this was my passion now, to go educate people. So as time went on, I got through my therapy session, and she had me do a technique where to pretend he was sitting in a chair and really basically talk to him if he was there. I did that. I let all this emotion out, and I cried, and my floodgates just opened, and I let everything out. And it was the most probably intense thing I went through, and it was probably the most thing I'll always remember. And it was probably one of the most best things that could have ever happened, to let that out and finally put those emotions aside. Because when you don't do that and you don't let yourself get over those emotions and you put them in a box, it comes back at you. I tried to do that by meeting other people, going out to clubs, thinking that that was going to be the best beneficial way to do it. I was wrong, and I'm telling you, it's just not going to work. If you just broke up with somebody and you decide to go and do that, well, this will be the result. You will still be the same way if you don't work on those issues. So moving forward, I ended up doing my own memorial for him. I couldn't go to his memorial because I would have been too upset. I didn't want to cause a scene. So I did my own memorial. I threw something of his into the ocean. I cried about 45 minutes that day, and after that I remember walking away with a smile. It was probably one of those most joy times in my life because I finally got over that big hump that was plaguing me for that good part of 6 months. So I was very thankful to my therapist, and you know, as time went on, I did Empower for another couple years, and then from that, I took all the knowledge I gained from there. I became their top recruiter and worked really hard, and I went from there, and then I went back home to Sacramento. And so now I am going to be 26 years old next month on August 13th, and I'm going to be hopefully this fall, I'll be one of the new facilitators for the 20-something group in Sacramento at the Gay and Lesbian Center. So now I'm going to try to reach a younger crowd and use my story, and I'm going to be using my story there that I'll be telling them, and using it to really help people. And really, now it's become like just part of my life that I need to do this to get my message across to people, to be safe, be careful who you trust. So I want to go back to another thing that I forgot to mention was when I told my mother I was HIV positive, I really felt like I let her down because I had so many medical problems. A lot of people who meet me don't know this, but I have Asperger's syndrome, which is a high-functioning autism, and it's really been with me since I was little. So a lot of times the decisions I make are not smart, and I don't think before I act. So that's where a lot of my disability comes in there. So I felt like with all of the medical problems I had when I was a baby that I let her down. But I made a promise to myself that I was not going to sit here and let my life get a waste that she fought so hard for me to have, that I'm going to go make something of myself, and that's what I chose to do. So, you know, I live a happy life now. I'm really happy with things are going. I've been single for 3 years, and you know, I'm enjoying what life has to offer. You know, I'm enjoying everything. I miss San Diego. I think the most thing I miss is just sitting there at the beach, you know, listening to the water crash against the shore and listening to the birds, and just really being able, because it was a great place to escape and just listen and really daydream about what you want in life and, you know, what you dream of. So yeah, I made this video. I hope you all enjoyed my story, and I hope it influenced you. And let's get out there and make a difference, and let's get out there and let's change the world, because you know what? We all can change the world by making it a safer place for us to be, by protecting ourselves and learning to love ourselves. I learned to love myself. I learned it from watching the movie The Secret, and I learned it, and I hope that, you know, if you guys want to check it out, go to Target, buy the DVD, and I hope that, you know, you find it is just as inspiring as it has been to me. So yeah, you know, I've had a lot of inspirations in my life, one of them being Pedro, which, if you don't remember that, he's from the MTV Real World, and he died of AIDS. and he fought to go and educate people about HIV, and it really became an inspiration to me. Another person that was inspiration was Bobby. There was a movie on Lifetime called Prayers for Bobby, and it was about a guy that his parents couldn't handle. They always want to tell him that being gay was a sin. And that's why I don't go to a lot of churches, because I really don't want to hear bad things about being gay. Because you know what? It's not a sin. It's who we are. You either accept it or you don't. And to the people that don't accept it, I don't give a damn. It's who I am. It makes me who I am. So no one can tell me different. And I hope that, you know, people can learn from this. This is why I made the video. And I hope that you all have learned something from this. And but most of all, I want to say that you know, let's all get out there again, and we can change the world and make a difference. And I want to say that, you know, it's really been great telling this, and I hope that you've all learned something, and I hope that I was able to inspire you in some way, because that was really why I made this. I really wanted to inspire people and make a difference in somebody's life. So again, my name is Lance. I'm 25 years old in Sacramento, and God bless, and thank you for watching my video. Kyle. And sorry, I tried to go as fast as I could.
16 minutes is better than before.